Welcome back to the continuing Director's Commentary on the Masters of the Universe Classics line. I'm your host, Scott Toy Guru Neitlich, brand manager for the line and lifelong fan. So as I've noted in a few of the other 30th anniversary figures that came out in 2012, we wanted to recreate the emotional feeling of first finding a He-Man figure at retail. Not knowing about them, not knowing their comic or their cartoon appearance, but the first experience being finding them as a toy. And I tried to reach out through any means necessary to a lot of folks that worked on the vintage line, and when I couldn't get in touch with people or legally was held back, I tried getting in touch with different comic book creators. And when I also couldn't hear back from any people, well, the slots for the brand new characters were divided up amongst Mattel employees. Of course, we had Fearless Photog, the winner of the vintage contest. I got a slot, Terry got a slot, the Horseman got a slot. But I did hear back from one creative in the industry, and that was Geoff Johns. So Geoff at the time was a leading writer at DC Comics. Eventually he became creative director of DC Comics and went on to executive produce a lot of their content. He was most known at the time for his work on Green Lantern, although he obviously spent time working on a lot of other properties, and he eventually would do Flash and Aquaman and, well, pretty much everyone in the DC universe. But Green Lantern was kind of his the piece that made him the most famous at the time. And he and I had met and become friends when I was working on the Green Lantern movie, mostly because he and I were kind of the only two people in the room that were actually huge comic book and toy fans amongst all these executives, so we kind of naturally gravitated to each other. And Geoff had mentioned to me what a huge He-Man fan he was. And, of course, this is one of the reasons I approached him about doing one of the slots in the Classics 30th anniversary line to do new figures. DC Comics had a big history with Masters of the Universe. Not only were they working on the current line, but the very first mainstream comic books for Masters of the Universe came from DC. There was the Superman versus He-Man, and then there was a 3-part miniseries where DC expanded the mythos, adding things like Prince Adam and some other major elements. They also worked on the second run of mini-comics for 1983. So there's a lot of history with DC Comics and Masters of the Universe. And as I said, at the time, Masters of the Universe was also now at DC again for mainstream comic books. So it wasn't totally out of left field that we would have a major writing star from DC work on a new He-Man figure in the 2012 line, but really it was because Geoff was willing to do it for love. We didn't have any money to pay any of these creators, so you had to be willing to basically do the figure for the love of the property. And Geoff was all over that because he was a huge He-Man fan. So this was his creation, Sir Laserlot, and it's especially very apropos because much like my creation, Spector, this was a figure he submitted to the Vintage Create-A-Character contest. He actually said he submitted about 5 different characters, but Sir Laserlot was pretty much his favorite. And at my request, in order to do him in Classics, I asked him if he could provide some images, and he dug up a whole bunch of drawings that he did when he was a kid. And, of course, he also had to sign over rights to the character, just like anyone else who worked on the brand, or rather who submitted characters for the 30th anniversary, both the slots and the fan contests. And he had no problem with that at all because, again, that was, he was doing this out of love for the brand. So he was fine signing over Sir Laserlot to Mattel, although some of the guys over at Robot Chicken, I think when they found out about this, because they had plans to work with Geoff on some Sir Laserlot things, they were like, no, now Mattel owns that character. We were going to do something with that. But that's a whole other story. So it was great that Geoff had all of this original art that he did when he was a kid, because that was really what it was all about. It was doing figures from the imagination of children. So, and that's, how it bookended with the Create-A-Character contests. So all of the artwork that he provided, there were sort of different versions of him, some where he had a jewel on a chest, some where he had more of like a knightly cross. But it was very consistent as far as the blue and the red and the shield and the cape and those kind of elements. Blue and red being very heroic colors, see Spider-Man and Superman. So Terry Iguchi, the lead designer on the 2012 line, was able to take Geoff's drawings and translate them into a Classics figure using shared parts. And we ran it all by Geoff to see what he would think, and he gave his input. and showing him, all the different new accessories we were going to make. Obviously, he was going to get a new head and new armor, and everything, went through Geoff for his approval, and he was just overjoyed to be seeing a character he created in the He-Man line. And that was, here's what he looked like as a final figure. He really popped in package with all that blue and red. And, Geoff got his name on package like all the other 2012 30th anniversary figures. And Geoff, as a writer, helped write the bio. He kind of gave an outline, and then I massaged that because very specifically management wanted all of the new characters for 2012 to kind of try to draw different aspects of the brand together, different time periods, if you will. So Sir Laser-Lot worked really well because we made him in the bio and in the mini-comics the sort of the man-at-arms, the trainer for King Grayskull during Heroes time. He worked for King Grayskull. So he would exist in Preternia. And then through the fun of time travel, he was going to go forward in time to work for King He-Man and train King He-Man's son, Dare. I think this might have been the first appearance of Dare in the bios. And, of course, Mighty Spector, being the token time travel character and also a 30th anniversary figure, was going to be the one to help him travel through time. And then we plopped him into the 2012 mini-comics, not only to establish this, but also to give us art for the back of the shield on the bio. Now, the idea that Sir Laser-Lot was a knight, to me, fit right in with Masters of the Universe. There were a few knight characters. There was the Red Knight from Filmation, and of course Extendar, who was a little bit more known for his action feature than for the fact that he was a knight. But, at the end of the day, Extendar is a knight. He even comes with a lance and has, armor going all the way up, covering his face, just like a medieval knight would. But we really didn't have kind of a traditional knight. Well, Extendar, but he's still, the faceplate kind of throws you off. So having a knight in Motu, even if it was another knight in addition to Extendar, to me felt very natural. But a lot of fans said that he didn't fit with Motu. He didn't look like a Motu character. And this was also the same reaction a lot of people had to Mighty Spector, since he looked like a superhero in spandex. But my response, and still to this day, is, come on, Motu is a brand for everything, and it's welcoming of all concepts. You have cowboys, you have ninjas, you have robotic elephants. The idea that you can't have a knight or a guy in a spandex suit when you have a traditional ninja, Motu is about everything. There's barely a design concept that doesn't work in the brand. And Sir Laser-Lot in particular combined medieval with technology. He had a laser sword and he had laser energy coming out of his helmet, like the plume was made of energy. And how much more Motu can you get than that? Plus, not to mention the fact that his accessories, his mace, his sword, and his shield were very traditional medieval weapons, which meant we had great redeco opportunities for a later weapon pack to release them as standard weapons. As far as production, there was one hitch where he was designed to have the energy flow going off over his right shoulder. And when he was assembled by the factory, much like King Hiss's shoulders and Robato's shoulders and some other issues, they actually attached the laser plume backwards, and it was coming over his left shoulder. You can kind of see that here from finished product to prototype. And luckily, because this is a figure no one ever had before, no one ever noticed. Although I threw a huge stink, and I really was demanding they fix it, but I just could not win that battle. So some battles you kind of have to give up. You have to sort of pick and choose. And since this was a new character that didn't really have any precedent, I kind of backed off. But I did fight for it, Geoff. I really did. So the bio is expanded by Geoff in the comics. He's actually an African-American character under the mask with glowing red eyes, which is pretty awesome. And Geoff did this in the very first issue of DC's Masters of the Universe comic. He wrote the prelude, which was a bit of a publicity stunt because with his name being such a big name at DC, having him attached to the first issue was really to sell copies. And the only disappointing thing about that, it was a great story, but it never got picked up again. A lot of the threads that he had put with Sir Laser-Lot, sort of picking up his armor and putting it on again and having regrets about his past and talking about his gem. And even Spector got a name drop. And the kids in the story that are running talk about running from scare glows plural, as if they're, a species. I always thought that was really cool. And unfortunately, while it didn't continue in the comics, fans did pick up on these designs and have done customs of him without his helmet, as well as custom artwork, because, again, he's a knight and he's got a laser sword. How much more Motu can you get? I got the criticism that he looked like Cobra Commander, but come on, all toys do have some similar looks. In fact, fans pushed back on his look so much that they actually held a redesigned Sir Laser-Lot contest online for people to do their own art. And I was kind of like, well, no, this is Geoff's character. This is the way he designed him. It's not up to fans to say what he should look like. That's why we have the Create a Character contest, and there's a slot for you guys. And the winner was Castle Grayskull Man, who we'll get to in a few episodes. So, either way, I think he's an amazing character. I think he's so Motu, the way he combines technology and medieval. A knight is perfect for the brand. Incidentally, his gem in his chest is named after Geoff's brother. He liked to drop his brother and his late sister into comics. Courtney from DC Stargirl is named after his sister. It's an homage to her. So the gem is named after his brother. And that's what Geoff's all about. It's all done from love. And it was all about adding new characters to the 30th anniversary to have that great emotional connection with. I'm so glad Geoff did it, and I really thank him for it. It's a great character.